Welcome to Workshop Topics. This is a special. It's called An Introduction to Mass Production. My daughter Charlotte has a company and it's called the Woodland Gift Company, and they make special gifts. And these are backing cards for just one of the products. They're called wish bracelets. Charlotte's company sell a lot of these. They're inexpensive and really nice little things. The backing cards, which are made of a recycled material, in common with all packaging from the Woodland Gift Company, all have to be drilled to mount the bracelet. And to drill the holes in the cards, I made this drilling template for Charlotte a while back. There was a time when this one template was fine for doing the job. This product sells in high quantities, so now they need more templates to drill more. And that's where I come in. I've cut 4 pieces of plywood and I've stuck a wish bracelet gift card on each of the pieces of plywood. Now I need to make some drilling guides to fit in these pieces of plywood. I'm going to use a piece of brass for this, and here it is laid across the 4 templates. This plywood measures approximately 5/16 of an inch. It's really 9mm ply. Now I have to make 8 drilling guides. The first thing to do using a piece of Scotch-Brite is to clean the outside of the brass. This piece of 5/16 of an inch diameter brass has been sat about the workshop for a while, so it was quite tarnished, but it's okay now. Here it is in the chuck, and off we go with the start of the job. As always, the first part of the job is the facing of the rough edge. I've turned the cutting tool tip round so it's nice and sharp. Although there are only 8 of these guides to make, for me, being a musician and not an engineer, and having a musician's brain, not an engineer's brain, this is extremely tedious. Well, for me anyway. The piece of brass bar is 5/16 of an inch in diameter, as I've just mentioned. I need to turn down part of this for a distance of 9mm to a diameter of 1/4 inch, so the finished parts will press into the holes in the templates. There's a definite sequential order for making things like this. In this clip I'm taking the final cut, so the part that's turned down is now exactly 1/4 inch in diameter. I need to make sure that it fits in the holes in the wooden templates, so the best way to do this is to try the wooden template on the piece of metal, and yes, this is fine. At this stage I've taken a note of the setting of the hand wheel on the cross slide. So now when the dial on the cross slide lines up with the pointer, I should easily be able to turn every one of these to 1/4 inch in diameter. This makes the job quicker. On the first one, to illustrate a point, I removed the entire piece of brass bar from the chuck and cut it off using the bandsaw. And here it is, the first blank. So why did I take it out and use the bandsaw? Why didn't I use a parting tool? I make these tutorials for beginners, and a lot of beginners have lathes that are not very good with parting tools because they're very small, and that's why I showed the alternative of sawing the part off. My good old Boxford is very good at most things, including parting off, and here, for the second part and all the rest of them, I'm going to be using this parting tool. The parting tool is slightly below centre height, but everything's fine. The bit drops off into the chip tray. I slackened off the chuck jaws and pulled a bit more of the brass out of the chuck. And here I'm turning part number 2 and parting off part number 2. The bad news is I have to make 8 of these. Yes, 8 of them. When I turn locomotive wheels, I find it difficult enough making 6. And once again, that's because I really am not an engineer. I just have plenty of common sense and I make models. And I'm disciplined enough to teach myself most things. Well, apart from paint lining and sign writing and stuff like that, I really am not good at that at all. Although with a bit of practice I should be able to paint line my Sterling single, on the boiler banding anyway. Finally, in this aerosol cap I have 8 blanks. That is a good thing, but I haven't finished yet. One by one now I put them back in the chuck, and the first one that I cut off with the bandsaw was a bit thick, as was the second one that I cut using the bandsaw. This part I left particularly thick so I could show this operation. This is called bulk removal and wasting metal. What I need to do now is turn this one down to the finished dimension that I want them all to be. For this job I locked the lathe saddle in place so it couldn't move. The next part of the job is to centre drill the end of every one to guide the drill bit into place when the item's been used. This was particularly tedious, so I've really speeded this up. It's running at 400%. First one, then the next one, then the next one, until I got to number 8. I suppose after drilling each one with the centre drill, I could remove the centre drill and put the 3mm twist drill in place and drill that. But because this is mass production and I don't have a fancy tool holder in the tailstock that holds lots of different tools that I can get at quickly, I wanted to do it like this, one at a time. In this sequence I'm drilling the 3mm holes all the way through every one of them. I suppose it wasn't that bad after all, but it did take a lot longer than you see on the video. What I'm doing at the moment is just cleaning up the cardboard part that's stuck to the plywood. I'm just using a countersink for this. At least the turning and drilling's finished. I really got fed up of it, honestly. I know it sounds stupid, just 8 to make. I really do admire people who can do this sort of thing without starting to hear voices. Now I'm going to permanently fix these parts into the wooden templates. And for this, as always, I'm using Loctite 603. Just a drop in each of the holes. The brass parts are quite a tight fit in the holes anyway. This is just belt and braces approach. For this next part of the job I should really use a soft hammer, but the fit isn't that tight and the wood moves out of the way to let the metal in. I don't really think I needed to use Loctite 603 to be honest. What I'm doing here is measuring the distance between the bushes because I need a handle in the centre. On the original one that I made I put a fancy turn handle in the middle. But for this job, with there being 4 of them, I found a simpler idea. Alternative uses for a 5/16 by 32 union nut. I composed some music for Charlotte's website. I just call it Charlotte's Woodland Theme. I'm going to play out the video using this. Stay safe and well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.